It was a day that changed my life forever.
The muscle, the moral courage that built the greatest, freest nation the world has ever known.
Ronald Reagan was our president, and there was trouble brewing in Iran. I was just a kid, but I knew who was behind it. His name was the Iron Sheik.
From Tehran, Iran, weighing 258 pounds, the Iron Sheik.
They have a lot of hate in their hearts for this man.
You see, Reagan may have freed the hostages, but the Sheik still had the championship belt. There was only one man that could save us.
I am a real American.
From Venice Beach, California, the incredible
And the Hulkster rips off that shirt.
But 3 minutes into the match, Hulk Hogan was locked in the dreaded camel clutch.
It's over for the Hulk.
This move would snap the back of a normal man, but this wasn't a normal man. This was Hulk Hogan, and he was fighting for our country. The Hulkster got out of the camel clutch with the Sheik on his back, dropped the big leg, and he pinned the Sheik. Hulkamania was born, and the message was clear. You don't mess with Hulk Hogan, and you certainly don't mess with America.
I must break you.
Look what happened to Ivan Drago. He tried to mess with America, and Rocky kicked his ass. And then when the Vietnamese were holding POWs, Rambo went in and he kicked their ass.
And in the spirit of Rambo, let me tell you, we're gonna win this time.
Then came Arnold Schwarzenegger, the ultimate ass kicker. I never saw Gone with the Wind or Casablanca, but I can tell you every line of every Arnold movie. Crush the enemy, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of the women.
Dylan, you son of a bitch.
And they go bam, and they're all oiled up, and their veins are popping out.
Better, stronger, faster.
I was just 12 years old, and there was an explosion of ass kicking in America.
And like our Olympic athletes, we set our sights on the stars and we're going for the gold.
I wanted to tear off my shirt and be ripped, tanned, and larger than life. But in reality, I was a fat, pale kid from Poughkeepsie. You see, I come from an overweight family. My parents were always a little on the heavy side. I couldn't ask for a better mom. She did everything for her 3 boys. We went to church 3 times a week, and she even taught Sunday school. My dad was always there for us, too, and he even coached our Little League teams. I love my dad, but he was never really my hero. I didn't want to be like him. I wanted to be like Arnold. Problem is, I was always too small, too short. People would say, "Hey, Little Bell, what's up, Little Bell?" And I didn't want to be Little Bell. I wanted to be Big Bell. My older brother Mike was a little chubby, and every morning when he went to school, he'd get on the bus and the kids would call him Pugsley. He didn't like that too much, so he beat some of those kids up. That's where he got the nickname Mad Dog. Mark was the baby of the family. He had a hard time in school. He was separated from his friends and put in a class with the special kids. It didn't make him feel very special at all. He hated school, so he spent all of his time playing sports. He'd come to the dinner table dripping with sweat. Mad Dog and I nicknamed him Smelly. So I was the short kid, Mad Dog was the fat kid, and Smelly had a learning disability. Okay, I get it. We're never gonna make it, right? But for us, we knew muscles were the answer, and the Hulkster showed us the way.
Train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, be true to yourself, true to your country, be a real American.
So we started training in the basement. We'd body slam each other, drop elbows, DDTs, double noggin knocker, the abdominal stretch, the iron claw, the Boston crab, the pile driver. And when Mad Dog was too tough for me, I would break out the steel chair. My mom's brother John was a bodybuilder, and he gave me and my brothers our first muscle magazines and showed us how to work out. And the next Christmas, instead of video games, we got the Hulkamania workout set.
Are you ready to feel the power? Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Power Team!
Mad Dog became the captain of the football team, and Smelly and I both started competing in powerlifting.
Chris Bell's up next at 425.
Soon I was the strongest kid in my high school. Then I broke the New York State record. And that's when I first got accused of using steroids.
Other kids your age, they look down at you or have that non-belief, or you guys can't be this strong without drugs, you must be taking them.
I knew guys who used them, but they were losers. If my heroes didn't need steroids, then neither did I. By the time I was a senior, I was one of the strongest kids in the country. Hulk Hogan was always talking about
Hanging and banging down at Gold's Gym, Venice Beach, brother.
I thought, that's where Arnold trains. That's where I need to be. I was going to be an American hero, and I was willing to do whatever it takes. It's been 15 years since I got to California, and now I'm 33 years old. When Arnold was 33, he had already won the Mr. Olympia 7 times. Stallone had already made Rocky 1 and Rocky 2, and the Hulkster had already been the heavyweight champion 4 years in a row. I really thought muscles were going to be the answer, but all they got me was a job selling gym memberships. I still train every day at Gold's, but the only thing left of Arnold is a cheap mural on the wall and a bunch of guys telling stories about the old days. Like my buddy Paul.
It's changed a lot in all these years, you know.
Changed a lot? How long you been here?
Since 1980. Of course, Arnold was on the scene, and Arnold, nobody had ever seen anybody that looked like Arnold. Sylvester Stallone had just done the Rocky movies, and he was the type of guy that I could relate to.
Paul even got a chance to work with Sly in Over the Top.
I should be able to blow them away real easy.
I couldn't believe the dream was coming true.
And did you get a chance to do it again?
No, but I'm hoping to get back in shape to be able to make that a reality. You can be on the street one day, and you can be in a penthouse the next. Anything's possible. This is my humble abode.
Your humble abode right here?
Yeah, it's...
So do you actually live in the van?
I actually live in... well, I sleep in it. Let's put it this way, yes.
You should sleep in it?
Yeah.
And then you train over here?
I train here, yeah. You would see vans like this. Guys who come from all over the world, sleep in their cars, this and that, anything to get a chance to train at Gold's Gym, because we had something special here.
What would you say to people that say, like, you know, the dream's over, man? You're 50 years old. Like,
yeah.
What would you say to those people?
They're the ones that are short-sighted. Now, in 6 months, I can still be in the van. But if I can outlift everybody, I can out-squat them, out-bench them, out-deadlift them, who's the king? Guys like you and me can fulfill our dreams. We can train. Game ain't over. The sun is shining. And it ain't over.
Is that going to be me in 20 years? I did everything my hero said. I trained, I said my prayers, I ate my vitamins. Where did I go wrong? Hey. Good morning. How are you?
I always make the cookie bars because cookie bars are important.
What teams did you make these for? Did you make
I made them for Arlington football teams. First time ever they won a bowl game. They used to call them Rosie's Cookie Bars, and they really believe that they help them win all the games.
Would that be like performance enhancement?
It's not an enhancement. It's a little bit of sugar, which can get you going, carbs. But it's all natural ingredients. There's no steroids in here. Eating your mom's cooking is sort of comforting, don't you think?
Sure.
Things change, but the cookie bars remain. That's for sure.
My mom likes to think that the world is as pure as her cookie bars. But life isn't always like that. And a lot of things we grew up believing ended up not being true. First, I found out there's no such thing as Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny. That kind of sucked. Then I saw this news report.
The Iron Sheik had been arrested recently, along with wrestler Hacksaw Jim Duggan, while driving along the Garden State Parkway. The Iron Sheik was charged with possession of cocaine and marijuana. What has interested most wrestling fans in this case is that the Iron Sheik and Hacksaw are known to be adversaries. So why were they traveling together?
Yeah, I thought these guys hated each other.
Wham! Right on the back of the Iron Sheik.
Was their feud all made up? Was wrestling fake? Who's left to believe in anymore? Well, at least I still had my heroes. Those guys would never let me down.
Today, Hogan admits the famous physique was the result of 12 years of steroids.
Truth is, all my heroes had a dirty little secret.
Hollywood actor Sylvester Stallone has been charged with importing bodybuilding drugs when he visited Australia last month.
Did you take steroids?
I took them, yeah, up until the competition.
I was always against steroids, and when I found out that all my heroes used them, I'd like to say it didn't bother me, but it really did. I can't imagine how my mom would feel if she found out that both of my brothers are on steroids right now. My older brother started using steroids when he went to play Division I football at the University of Cincinnati.
When I got to Cincinnati, the practices were so grueling. Much more than what I expected. Coaches would say, you got to get bigger, you got to get stronger, you got to get faster.
Was it intimidating?
Oh, man, no, a lot different than I thought it was going to be.
He called me from Cincinnati and asked me for money for steroids. And I said, what do you need that for? He says, because I can't compete here. So I'm like, well, I don't know what that is. It sounds like drugs. He goes, it is drugs. And I say, well, I'm not going to send you money for drugs. If you want drugs, go get a job.
I remember at one point, I think you maybe came home for a break or you did something, and you told me, hey, come here, help me out. And you pulled down your pants, and you're like, you have to inject this into me. And I hated it, because I was totally against steroids. I hated it. And you're like, come on, you know, just do it. You have to do it.
You got to help your big brother out, man. There was no decision at all. Everybody else that was doing well was on him.
Shortly after getting on the juice, Mad Dog quit college to pursue an even bigger dream.
Oh, look at that now! Here we go! Mike Bell!
I couldn't believe it. That was my big brother wrestling on TV.
Oh, man!
Mad Dog wanted to be a superstar, but he was what they call a jobber. That's the guy they pay to get beat up to make the other guys look good. He didn't care, though. He was going to get himself a contract and headline WrestleMania.
Why did you even come in the ring? You should have gone home, dummy.
But he never got the contract. And eventually, the WWE stopped calling. Why did you think you didn't make it?
Probably mostly my own fault. I went from being a guy who used steroids to a guy who used steroids and pot, and I still needed to escape reality. So I started taking ecstasy, cocaine, acid, painkillers.
Mike Bell is where he does not need to be now. He's in the wrong corner, and he's paying the price.
Mad Dog always told me that he'd rather be dead than average. And when he thought his dream was over, he couldn't cope with the failure.
So I had a bottle of liquid lead, a bottle of NyQuil, and like 4 boxes of sleeping pills. I went down to the river, down by the railroad tracks, parked my car, took everything.
And he had tried to walk into he tried to walk into the
He was
Hudson River.
So did you take all the sleeping pills?
Everything.
And the lead additive?
There's no way I should be alive right now. There's no way.
It's 10 years later, and despite everything that happened, Mad Dog is still trying to get that contract, trying to keep the dream alive.
I've been all over the world, from Singapore to Louisville, and it doesn't matter. You line them up, I'll knock them down.
I can see why you never made it. It's all right. Mad Dog used to wrestle in front of a television audience of 10 million people every week. But tonight, he's wrestling at the Portuguese Men's Center in front of 200 people for about $50. And instead of wrestling Bret the Hitman Hart, he's facing Majito, and he's getting his ass kicked. My baby brother Smelly was always trying to keep up, and despite everything that happened to Mad Dog, he followed in his footsteps anyway, becoming a pro wrestler and using steroids.
The reason I decided to use steroids was simple. I just needed to get bigger. That was pretty much it.
But unlike when Mad Dog started using steroids, Smelly had a wife to consider. When you got married, did you ever think that your husband would be injecting himself with something?
No, I mean, that didn't even enter in my conscious thought. When I first met him, he was against steroids. I mean, he was just like, you don't need to do it. I've never done them. I just don't believe in them.
I was pretty upset about it because I didn't want it to come to that. I was kind of scared. I didn't want to inject this oil into my body. I thought I was just, I thought I was weird.
He's not a huge guy, he's 6 feet if he's lucky. And so I knew that it was definitely going to help because, what it does, what steroids do. So make you bigger.
She basically said, do what you need to do.
Here's Jake with the daddy.
After their son was born, Smelly decided the life of a pro wrestler was not exactly what he wanted anymore.
Here's my little Jake in his swing. You know, looking back on it, I don't really know what the hell I wanted. Having a contract means that you belong to the WWE and you have to travel. I was married with a kid. I mean, that's really all I need. A house, a kid, and a wife. I'm set. 1, 2, 3.
They settled down in the suburbs, and Smelly even opened up his own gym. Yeah, my little brother gave up the wrestling dream for a respectable family life. But he didn't quite give up everything.
Now that I'm into it, I realize it's not really all that bad. I love steroids. I mean, I think I'll probably be on and off of them probably forever.
This is what you train for. This is what you do. Come on, boy!
I thought that we had an agreement that he did it for wrestling, now he's not wrestling anymore, so naturally I thought he would just stop.
In my mind, there's no excuse for not being as strong as you possibly can be. You do what you got to do to win.
Come on, Chris, let's do this now. Let's give it up for him. It's a lot of weight.
There it is. Come on now.
Nice job. Smoke show. Come on, Chris. Nice try, Chris. Nice try.
If you are apprehensive about taking a steroid or you're apprehensive about trying some new methods, then maybe you're not cut out to be a champion.
In first place, Mark Bell.
I guess I'm not cut out to be a champion. Because I tried steroids, but I felt so guilty I had to stop.
You gonna win worst overall lifter?
And now I can't even compete in the sport I grew up loving. I mean, my baby brother just beat me by 130 pounds. We all grew up in the same house. So why are my brothers fine with steroids, but I'm not?
What would you say the differences are between
Between the
kids?
three?
Yeah.
Well, I always kind of say it like this. You were in the middle of two guys that were very strapping, athletic, and you were tiny and short in stature. So I worked extra hard to make you feel extra special. One day I took you in your room out, and if you remember this conversation where I said, Christopher, what's the best part of an Oreo cookie? What is the best part of an Oreo cookie?
The middle.
The middle. That's right. So even though you have two sides of a cookie on this end, the middle part is the most delicious. Everybody wants the middle. They even made double stuff.
Yep, this is pretty much how it was growing up. Mom stayed at home with the kids while Dad wore a suit and tie and went to work. He was at IBM for 20 years until he was downsized. But now he has his own business doing taxes.
Everybody thinks that success in America is the amount of dollars that you have, and that's not true. The real true heroes are people who go to work every day and do their job and bring up their kids to the best of their ability.
I wanted to be Hulk Hogan. I wanted to be Arnold. I wanted to be Sylvester Stallone. Did you have heroes like that growing up when you were a kid?
Yeah, we did. We had heroes like Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, but I knew I could never aspire to it because back then, you grew up, you graduated, you got married, and you had kids.
Yeah, my dad had the American dream. You know, marry your high school sweetheart, buy a house, and take your kids to see the Yankees. But things are different now, and even baseball's changed from when my dad was growing up. And now when I think of baseball, I don't think about the Babe or Hammer and Hank. I think of steroids.
This one is a monster. It is out of here.
After the strike of '94, baseball was almost dead. But then Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa started smashing home runs, racing toward the single-season record. You see, about 1,000 years ago, Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs in one season. And then when my parents were still kids, Roger Maris hit number 61. He was the home run champ for 37 years until Big Mac came along and crushed that record with 70 home runs, and baseball was saved.
Mark McGwire, you have just broken the home run record. What are you going to do next?
We're going to Disney World.
I guess Barry Bonds wanted to go to Disney World too, because in 2001, he smashed 73 bombs to break McGwire's record. See, baseball players used to be scrawny, But now these guys were jacked, and it was cool. They started looking like pro wrestlers.
If you were to construct a home run hitter in a lab, put him together, he'd look like that.
Turns out that was kind of what was going on.
A man with ties to some big-name athletes has been charged with providing performance-enhancing drugs to the pros.
The guy with the pencil-thin mustache is Victor Conti. He used to be the bass player for Tower of Power. But when that career didn't work out, he did what any failed musician would do. He started selling undetectable steroids to athletes.
Will you name names?
Thank you. There will be a naming of names. Conti's files named over 250 athletes, including the home run king himself, Barry Bonds. And then something even crazier happened. Jose Canseco wrote a book. The surprise wasn't that he was literate, it's what he wrote about. He said he'd been taking steroids since '86, that 80% of baseball was on the juice, and that he'd personally injected his former bash brother, Mark McGuire, in the ass.
The lie, Mr. McGuire.
Do you want to know the terrifying truth?
Or do you want to see me sock a few dingers?
Dingers! Dingers!
All right. Congress wants to haul a bunch of baseball players up to Capitol Hill to talk about steroids.
In 2005, Congress spent 151 days in session. They spent 8 of those days debating steroids in sports. That's more time than they spent on national health care, why the levees broke in New Orleans, and more than ending the war in Iraq. Apparently, the United States Congress takes this whole national pastime thing kind of seriously.
I'm a baseball fan. I always have been.
Let me just start by saying that I am a huge baseball fan.
For me, baseball is not a game, it's a passion.
We have every right to be concerned that the national pastime and all that it represents has been threatened by the selfish actions of a few.
There's something simply un-American about this.
If using steroids makes the Bash Brothers un-American, what does that make the Bell Brothers?
Congressman Kanjorski, you think that this is not a matter for the U.S. Congress to be deliberating?
I just don't think it's necessary. Why are we just going to call 7 people, and of what importance are they? In the last 52 years, we've only done it 25 times. 14 of those times were by the Un-American Activities Committee.
Are you now, have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
Well, sir, I'm not here to talk about the past.
I have never used steroids, period.
Did you know that other players were using steroids?
I have never seen a syringe. I've never seen steroids.
But in locker room gossip, you may not have seen it. People talk, right? This guy's doing something, that guy's doing something.
Now, Mr. McGuire, would you like to comment on that? You don't want to comment? Are you taking the fifth?
This is about values. It's about our culture. It's about who we define ourselves to be. When we want to define to a foreign country what we're about, and you're going to show a film, what would you go show?
Hey, how about Rocky IV? There's nothing more American than that. The big Russian trains in a high-tech facility with a whole team of scientists and trainers. And of course, he takes steroids. Meanwhile, Rocky's out there lifting logs, chopping wood, training in a barn, the all-natural way. Because only commies would take steroids, right? Sure, Sly. Whatever you say. Truth is, steroids were the secret weapon that helped America fight the Russians on the Olympic battlefield. And it all began here, York Barbell in Pennsylvania.
When you were an Olympic coach, did you see a lot of steroid use going on?
Much.
Yeah.
Much.
Spitty's 83, one of the old-timers. He was the coach of the Olympic weightlifting team back then.
Was it ever thought of as cheating at that point?
No. No, because we figured everybody was taking. We figured even Steven.
Spitty told me the story about how anabolic steroids were first introduced to the U.S. Olympic team. It was the late 1950s, and the Russians were dominating America in the space race and at the Olympics. But one night, the Russian coach got drunk and told the American coach they'd been injecting their athletes with steroids. The American coach raced home and developed an even more powerful steroid, specifically for Team USA. So if steroids actually helped America beat the commies, how did it get such a bad rap?
Last week, former NFL defense lineman Lyle Alzado told NBC News that steroids were the cause of his inoperable brain cancer.
How long were you on steroids?
Most of my pro career. You know, I played 16 years. And it got me where I wanted, but also got me very sick.
Lyle Alzado went from being the toughest son of a bitch in the NFL to being a sad, dying man. Everything I saw on TV taught me that steroids kill.
Some alarming news about steroid use tonight.
A drug bust in Phoenix, Arizona. Not for heroin or cocaine, but for something just as dangerous.
Health damage from steroids can include heart, joint, and reproductive problems.
This is a drug that kills.
But what happens is these retarded idiots that give us the news, these talking heads that babble on TV, give us this rhetoric that comes from not one single expert. And they say ridiculous things like steroids will kill you, they'll rot your kidneys, they'll give you cancer, they'll do all these horrible things that are just not true.
John Romano is a senior editor of a bodybuilding magazine, and he disagrees with what his media colleagues think of steroids.
Well, how come we hear constantly in the news that people are dying from taking steroids?
Show me the bodies.
Lyle Alzado.
Lyle Alzado didn't die from steroids. I trained with him for 2 years. He didn't die from steroids. I know he died from a brain tumor.
I don't know of any of my colleagues that link his central nervous system lymphoma to his use of steroids.
Dr. Charles Yasalis has published over 70 articles on the use of steroids and is one of the top experts in the world on drugs in sports.
Are steroids killing people?
Good question. They've been used in medicine since the late 1930s. I hope we haven't been purposely killing people. Can they be used safely? Yeah.
These drugs are a boon in the medical profession. They're a miracle drug for people with muscle wasting. They are a miracle drug for burn victims, for cancer patients, people recovering from surgery,
and for people with AIDS like Jeff Taylor. Jeff has been fighting HIV for 25 years, and he says steroids saved his life.
Back in '92, I was down to 2 T cells and very sick. I developed PCP pneumonia. Both my lungs collapsed. I almost didn't make it. I came out of the hospital weighing 125 pounds. So I started researching and found a clinical trial in LA. It was studying Anavar, an old bodybuilding drug, to test how it worked in people with HIV. So I signed myself up, got a fairly high dose, and responded amazingly. I gained 30 pounds in 6 weeks, and I gained 300 T cells.
So these drugs have cognitive powers. If you're sick, they'll help you. If you're a healthy athlete, they'll kill you. How can you say that steroids are a national public health crisis when you have people dropping dead at a rate you can measure by the minute as a result of alcohol and tobacco?
According to the CDC, tobacco kills about 435,000 Americans every year. Alcohol kills about 75,000. And deaths from anabolic steroid abuse, 3. But steroids also show up in some other statistics, emergency room visits. But it's not exactly number 1 on the list. That would be alcohol. Or number 2, that's cocaine. Or number 3, that's marijuana. Gotta be top 10 though, right? Not quite. How about top 25? Top 100? Keep going. Try number 142. That's even after multivitamins.
Education is important, but what you have to watch out for is embellishing. If you look at reefer madness, it causes you to be a stark raving, murdering lunatic. Very funny to watch because it goes so over the edge.
The next tragedy may be that of your daughter, or your son, or yours.
Physicians and sports scientists have done that with the best of intentions in this area. Oh, steroids are going to cause you to drop over dead in your tracks and so on. And the athletes are looking around and say, geez, haven't seen that many guys die.
Are steroids killing people?
Steroids clearly are killing people, both in the short term and in the long term.
Dr. Gary Wadler is an advisor to the World Anti-Doping Agency and the media's go-to guy when it comes to steroids.
We know it's been associated with stroke in young people, for which there was no other obvious explanation. We know it's been associated with heart attacks, for which there was no other obvious explanation. We know it increases clotting.
What bothers me is people like Dr. Gary Wadler, who's a physician, and going before Congress and saying these things. And when confronted, please produce a single article that shows any of this in any scientific way. Can't do it.
Dr. Norm Faust is a professor of medical ethics with a research focus on performance-enhancing drugs.
I'm not denying that there aren't some serious adverse effects from anabolic steroids. It's just that we haven't been able to demonstrate any of them. Maybe that's because we don't study them. One of the problems with the ban on steroids is that it's impossible to do the kind of research that would answer these questions.
Some purists would like to see those studies done. Well, I can assure you they never will be done. It'd be a totally unethical study to do. So we have to use the information we have at hand.
depression, convulsions, anxiety, jaundice, myocardial infarction, which is heart attack, eczema, abscess, vaginal pain, vaginal discharge. You want to know what I'm reading this from? What does that say?
Vitamin C.
Thank you. I mean, look, peanuts are dangerous. You understand? There are people that take a peanut, that have a peanut, and they go into anaphylactic shock. Okay? The airway closes up, that's it, they die. Now, does that mean that we ban peanuts and sue God for making them?
No.
Right. What we do is we say, okay, peanut warnings.
There is no safe drug. There is no safe drug that ever exists. There's always a benefit to risk ratio. You name the drug, X% of people will suffer adverse effects.
Do you feel any side effects ever?
Yeah, I've had some side effects, acne, hair growth. Some side effects that I've had are...
What do you mean by hair growth? On your head?
No, just on my chest and my back and stuff.
I never break out. My back doesn't break out. I don't get hairy from it. You know, yeah, I get a little testicular atrophy, but then they come back. I mean, you know, it's normal.
Your balls shrink?
Balls shrink.
But who needs them?
Who needs them?
What about testosterone? I have some friends who say it is like a wonder drug. It makes them feel great. It makes them feel, you know, frisky and young, and it's great for their skin.
The negative side effects would be my lovely singing voice. Hair like a monkey from my head to my toes. I mean, hair growing out places you don't even want to talk about.
I mean, I want to stay feminine. Yeah. And I think that's why I get so much work, is because I still look like a woman, and, you know, I still have hard muscles.
In my experience, steroids are just going to make you more of whatever you are. If you're a jerk and you take steroids, you're a super jerk, right? You've seen that, right? You go beyond. You're an asshole.
I've never seen roid rage. I've never seen any difference in his personality or how he's with me, how he is with Jake. It hasn't done anything that all those after-school specials tell you that it's going to do.
Bryce, I gotta get bigger, man. Yeah, this might help. Steroids.
What is going on with you? Oh, damn it!
While I was visiting my brother and his family, they told me they were thinking of having another child, but that another possible side effect of steroids was on their minds.
If you couldn't have another kid, would it be something that you regret because you did steroids?
Yeah, if it was simply from that, yeah, I'd probably regret it. But there's a lot of things people regret in their lives, so I'm not, you know, it's a decision I made, and it's a decision I'll have to live with, whatever the consequences are.
It's been 15 years since Alzado died.
Why did you lie to me?
I was afraid.
Looking back on Maria Shriver's interview, I can't help but wonder, why wasn't she asking the real questions? Like, is this gonna happen to my husband? Did she really believe Lyle? Or was this just the beginning of the steroid myth? And even though the experts know a lot more about steroids, you sure wouldn't know it from watching the news.
Tonight, one of the nation's most serious drug problems, and it's only getting worse. It's steroids.
Professional wrestler Chris Benoit killed his wife, 7-year-old son, and then hung himself. Why did he do it? Steroids found in the house.
Steroids cause suicidal tendencies.
They hallucinate. They hear voices.
Depression, paranoia, and
steroids could be the actual cause for the Benoit
Speculation is running wild.
I think these drugs could affect one's mindset.
We know. Your whole personality.
Let's cut through the crap. This is Steroids 101. First of all, the term steroids is often misused to describe any performance-enhancing drug, when in fact, many of these drugs are not actually steroids at all. So what are steroids? Well, steroids are synthetic versions of hormones that your body produces naturally. Like cortisone, that's a steroid. It signals the body to break down inflammation. Birth control pills are steroids too, made from the female sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone. But the steroids that get all the negative attention are anabolic steroids, made from the male sex hormone testosterone, which tells the body to increase muscle size and strength and helps you recover from workouts faster. Like any drug, anabolic steroids do have side effects, and if you abuse them, the side effects will be worse. For men, they can cause acne, hair growth, raise cholesterol, shrink your testicles, and lower your sperm count, which could even make you sterile. But all of these side effects are reversible when you go off the drugs. Otherwise, steroids don't cause baldness, but if it runs in your family, they might make you go bald faster. And they can also cause gynecomastia, or what the gym rats call bitch tits. For women, in addition to acne and hair growth, steroids can cause a deepened voice, menstrual problems, and can enlarge the clitoris, and some of these are not reversible. And for kids, some experts think steroids can stunt growth by closing growth plates prematurely. But that's actually never been proven. There's also no proof that steroids cause cancer, kidney failure, and only oral steroids in high dosages can cause liver problems. And it's true that steroids may be one of 1,000 risk factors that could lead to heart disease. But then again, low testosterone is another big risk factor. And roid rage? Steroids can increase aggression, but that only happens in about 5% of the population. And even then, they can't make you psychotic. And as for the long-term side effects, we don't know. No one's ever done those studies.
At what point do we say that a behavior is such that people just shouldn't be allowed to engage in it? I mean, we do allow people to do lots of things that can hurt themselves.
America's new junkies, plastic surgery addicts.
I've had like my eyes done, rhinoplasty, chin, cleft, pectoral implants, bicep implants, buttock augmentation, and those are the ones I can remember right offhand.
Common sense tells you this is dangerous and foolish. You wouldn't risk your neck in a trick like this. Common sense tells us that being shot out of a cannon is dangerous business. Handling dynamite, this too looks dangerous.
Whether it's bungee jumping or skydiving or black diamond skiing, all of them are fun to do, but would subject one to tremendous risks with no real necessity. So if we allow all of those other risks, why is it that we're taking this position with respect to anabolic steroids?
And it's a fair start. And it is Raymond Kerr with his
1988, Seoul, Korea. A Canadian sprinter, Ben Johnson, defeated his arch rival, Carl Lewis, in the 100-meter sprint to become the fastest man in history.
Sure got our spirit up. Just great. Hey, Benny!
But 24 hours later, he tested positive for steroids, and they gave the gold medal to our guy, Carl Lewis.
There was a international uproar over the idea that this Canadian sprinter had gotten an advantage based on his use of an anabolic steroid for its performance effect. And Congress responded by holding some hearings.
Ben Johnson would not have been in the finals. He probably would not have been on the Olympic team had he not taken steroids.
Congress wanted to pass a law that would control steroids the same way as drugs like cocaine and heroin, and they called experts from the DEA, the FDA, and the American Medical Association. But they all testified that steroids should not be treated like illicit drugs. So Congress disregarded their experts, and in 1990, they passed the Anabolic Steroid Control Act, turning non-medical users into federal drug criminals.
This wasn't so much about health effects. It was really on what these things do that's good, in the sense that they build muscle. They improve the way that people can perform. And that, in a sports context, was seen as the ultimate evil. If we took a pie chart of steroid use and we looked at what percentage of that pie is comprised of athletes, they would be a very, very, very small slice of that pie. The overwhelming majority of the pie is comprised of the recreational gym rat who's doing it purely for cosmetic reasons. The irony is that we've addressed a sports cheating issue by creating a law that affects all the folks who aren't cheating in sports.
One look at Gregory Valentino's arms and you know something's going on. The 40-year-old is charged with criminal possession of anabolic steroids with intent to sell.
Some people may call Greg Valentino a freak and a felon. I call him a neighbor. He lives down the block from my grandma. He also happens to have the biggest biceps in the world.
Holy crap. Do you have difficulty with just sort of the regular things in life, like making a sandwich?
No. I can hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. Anybody want to challenge me? Let's do it.
I'll show you. Watch this. Oh! 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 Come on, Greg.
Oh, fuck.
Told you I'm no Barry Bonds. I'm a red meat man. I eat a lot of red meat.
Why do you think people in America are so uptight about steroids and steroid users?
Because they fear. They fear what they don't know. You know? That's ugly. Who the hell would want to look like that? You know what I mean? I don't want to look like that.
Why'd you want to look like that then?
I mean, I like being big. I had small man complex, you know? And I'd be like, I don't want to be little, you know? I wanted to be taller, so I couldn't grow taller. So I grew wider.
Personally, like, I think in the picture you showed me, your
I look better.
your arms look a lot better there than they look now, right? I mean,
Without a doubt.
Agree?
Without a doubt. I would rather look like that. Do you think girls look at me and go, oh my God, that's hot? They're like, that's fucking gross. I walk into a club, and the hottest girl could be there with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend will see me and mush her in the face to get over to me, just to say to me, like, dude, what the fuck?
But you're getting attention from the guys, not from the girl.
Oh, I don't give a shit. It's attention, you know what I mean? I can't explain it to you. It's like a mindset. Does that make sense or no? But I'll tell you what, when I'm done, my biceps are humongous. Humongous. Like that, bam!
For myself, I'm kind of on the fence. I have two brothers, they're both taking steroids right as we speak right now. I don't know if I want people to think I'm not cheating, or to look at me and say, wow, you know, like, you really have a great build, you know, but do you think I should take steroids to get there?
I think steroids are as American as apple pie. We live in a society today that you got MTV and reality shows. Madonna's making out with Britney Spears, rap music and all that shit, and you're worried about steroids? Kids are like, fuck you, cop. Fuck you, man. Playing video games like Grand Theft Auto where you're killing cops. That's worse influence, in my opinion, than steroids will ever be. Than Barry Bonds hitting home runs. There's a big difference between a kid taking steroids, who's only had hair on his dick a couple years, as opposed to a grown man looking to perform better at a better level in sports. And where is Schwarzenegger in all this? I mean, he is the poster boy for steroids. He's the poster boy for, hey, look at me, look what I did. I came, I conquered, I kicked ass. That autobiography says he was doing it when he was 15, 16. Hey, he won the Mr. Universe at 19 years old. 19. Did you ever see what he looked like when he was 19? Do you think it was God-given genetics, or do you think that maybe he took the performance enhancers? A lot of people idolize these guys, whether it's a rock star, bodybuilder, movie star, whoever. And all of a sudden you get to meet them. And man, is it a letdown. Because they're never, ever what they appear to be. The guy you see in public like this has got the middle finger under the table going like this. It's never what you see is what you get. It's what you see is what they want you to see. Everybody idolized Schwarzenegger growing up. Everybody thought, man, I want to lift weights and live a pure life like Arnold, and I'm going to eat all my vegetables and take my protein shakes. Maybe I'll move out to California, train at Gold's Gym, and I'm going to get really big. I'm going to win contests. I'm going to be a movie star, too.
Please welcome a man whose story embodies the American dream.
One thing I learned about America is that if you work hard and if you play by the rules, this country is truly open to you. You can achieve anything.
Dude. That is a pipe dream. That is a pipe dream, okay? To get where Arnold got in life, you have to be willing to step on a few fingers and step on a few friends and fuck a few people over. You don't get to that level without that. In this world, you're either the Barracuda or you're that little minnow swimming around like this. And Arnold's the Barracuda.
And we all exercise a little bit together with the dumbbells. Come on now. Let's do some presses here.
In the same year that George Bush Sr. signed the Steroid Control Act, he also made Arnold Schwarzenegger the chairman of the President's Council on Physical Fitness. So I'm confused. Was the president saying that a former steroid user could still be a role model for kids?
You gonna exercise? Yeah! You gotta pump up muscle!
Enter Steve Rogers, too puny to be accepted by the Army, but willing to risk death for his country.
He's changing right before our eyes.
Suddenly it is over, and America has a new champion.
Why do you think in America superheroes are so important?
People need heroes, whether in real life or in fiction, because they need somebody to inspire them, something to aim for, somebody to try to be like. I think any boy would want to be built like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Did you ever want to be big and muscular like that?
I wanted to be a little, when I'd go to the beach, I used to wish that my arms were a little stronger, you know. I looked more like the 98-pound weakling.
Did that ever inspire you, that Charles Atlas comic strip?
Did that inspire some of your characters?
It inspired everybody.
Let me teach you how to become strong.
When you're young, you get impressions that pretty much last you all your life.
If you step up and show up and play hard, you're going to play.
All right, get a break.
Rock and roll, fellas. We're in the weight room.
Smelly's now a coach for the local high school football team. Kind of like Arnold, he just wants to give back to the kids.
Going to school was pretty painful for me. Oftentimes, I can find a kid who was like me, who maybe didn't have the best confidence, and show them how to lift weights and build them up physically and mentally.
He's the kind of guy who would get in your life and just totally turn it around, like, keeps me going, you know, keeps me motivated about something.
When he works with those high school kids, that's his passion. Not a lot of kids have, like, a strong male figure in their life. I mean, a lot of people, they're usually very selfish, but he's not. I mean, I've never really met anyone that's like that.
There's a gym in Columbus, Ohio, where the strongest guys in the world train. It's called Westside Barbell, and this is where Smelly learned from his role model, Louis Simmons.
I've got a philosophy like many. When you go to war, you go to kill. You don't go to get killed.
There's nobody in this place that's not trying to be the best athlete in the world. Everybody here's trying to achieve an elite level of success.
Pretty much as you're a kid, you always want to be the strongest, you know what I mean? I always want to be the strongest guy. And I still want to be that, you know what I mean?
Take it up, in 1959, my father showed me a book. It was about the Russians taking testosterone. So I said, well, what the hell? You know, first chance I get, I'm going to do some of this. And so I did. I've actually been on anabolic steroids for 36 years.
Is it something I should be morally battling, or like, should I be fine with doing it?
Your morals are your morals, not mine. Who am I to judge you? And who are you to judge me? You want to be strong or you want to be weak?
But you can't be strong without doing steroids.
You can't be as strong as possible. If you want to reach the top, you're going to have to do it. Everybody thinks anabolic steroids is an easy way out. The people that train for anabolic steroids train way harder than people that don't. Regardless of what people think of Barry Bonds, you can't take a bottle of testosterone, put on Barry's baseball uniform, and make him hit 700 home runs. Barry's got to go out, train, and hit the 700 home runs. But what if a scientist came up with something better than anabolic steroids? You see cows, you see immense, powerful cows. They basically have changed their genes. If they could change your genes, would that be illegal? What would they do then? Just ban sports in general?
Oh, my Lord. When people see these, is the first question, how many hormones do you pump into them?
Well, it's two comments. One would be, oh my gosh, what did you do to that thing? And secondly, it looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
This is a Belgian Blue Bull. 2,600 pounds. All muscle, all natural.
So tell me again, you're all natural. You're not taking anything. Dude, I think you're ready for Congress.
He has a genetic mutation that allows him to grow double muscle, and scientists have figured out how to genetically alter humans the same way. Dr. Lee Sweeney is using this technology to try to cure muscular dystrophy.
It's obviously going to become more and more evident that, what we call talent is, really genetic variation. There's genetic enhancement available that might be able to, give you what nature didn't give you. Trying to figure out how to do it in the safest way is something that hasn't been worked out.
If you find out that it's safe, would you be somebody who would say, hey, I'll do this?
Yeah, I'll be first in line.
Because it seems like this is the future of sports, gene doping.
Gene doping, yeah. I wouldn't do it.
Will gene doping ruin sports in America?
I don't think so. I mean, I think anytime there's a new technology, everyone says, okay, we have to stand back and think about what this is really going to mean to society. And I think that's the debate we will come to in the coming decades.
Good sportsmanship. You know what that means? Play fair.
When I was a kid, cheating was pretty clear-cut. Like when the $1 Million Man hired the referee's evil twin brother to cheat the Hulkster out of his title.
Is that Dave Hebner, or is that Dave Hebner?
Cheating in other sports wasn't all that different. Remember when Joe Niekro was caught scuffing the ball with an emery board?
Something came out of his pocket.
Or what about when the Patriots were playing the Dolphins, and they hired an ex-con to clear a spot in the snow for the field goal kicker? You can't do that.
I think it's the most unfair thing that I've ever been associated in.
Or like when Rosie Ruiz won the Boston Marathon.
The mystery woman winner, we missed her at all our checkpoints.
Why take steroids when you can take a bus? And who can forget when Tanya Harding hired a goon to take out Nancy Kerrigan's knee? I guess if you can't beat him with a lead pipe. But But somehow, steroids seem kind of different.
I thought in undergraduate school and in college I was a pretty good athlete. But I find myself angry in my gut. Because these are the same guys who would have taken me out. Not because they had more God-given natural talent than me, but because they enhanced with artificial means.
If using steroids is cheating, seems like a whole bunch of other stuff should be cheating too. Take Tiger Woods, for example. He had LASIK eye surgery, and now his vision's 20/15. That's better than perfect.
My eyes are stable, my game's a lot better. I feel pretty good coming in.
In a game that relies so much on depth perception, wouldn't superhuman vision be a performance enhancement? Then there's cortisone shots. They helped Kurt Schilling win the World Series, and those are steroids too. Truth is, corticosteroids can have worse side effects than anabolic steroids, but they're used in sports every day.
He had a 20-minute cortisone shot after Monday's match after his back tightened up.
Here's an even more confusing example. Floyd Landis claims that he did not take steroids to win the Tour de France.
Truth is, I didn't use testosterone like I'm accused of doing. I didn't cheat. I didn't do anything outside of the rules. I won the tour clean, and I deserve to win. I'm proud of it, and I always will be.
But he did sleep in his own altitude chamber.
I got my altitude chamber out by the garbage these days.
So you made this?
Yeah, it's not actually that hard to make. I didn't make the pipe. I just got the pipe from some construction site where they were putting in a water main.
Is the result pretty good?
For me, it makes a difference, yeah.
And how long do you stay in here for?
Sleeping there all night, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours.
Is your wife like, what are you doing?
Like
I'm going to go sleep in the chamber?
She hates it.
So you just climb in there?
Yeah, you want to try it out? You won't have a monitor in there, but I have it set to like about 13,000 feet.
See, sleeping in an altitude chamber produces a lot more red blood cells, which means more oxygen in your system, which means more endurance for a cyclist or a long-distance runner. There are 4 ways to increase your red blood cell count. You can sleep in an altitude chamber, like Floyd, or you could just train at the U.S. Olympic Training Center at 6,000 feet in Colorado. Then there's blood doping. That's when you draw your own blood a month before the big race, then re-inject it the night before. Finally, there's a drug called EPO, which simply tells your body to produce more red blood cells. So that's 4 ways to do the exact same thing, but 2 are allowed and 2 are cheating.
You done yet?
Hey, that's kind of weird.
No, it's nice, man. Once you get used to it, it's nice sleeping in there.
What's heartbreaking is my 8-year-old, his 2 favorite athletes are Barry Bonds and Lance Armstrong. My 4-year-old is obsessed with Floyd Landis. So what do you tell these kids? I talk to people all the time that they go, you know, who can my kids believe in? And what I tell them is nobody.
I ask not to be judged, and much less to be sentenced by anyone.
You can't trust anybody now because the testing is so ineffective. You don't know who's really clean, who's really dirty.
Were you taking any sort of drugs for that race?
Not what they find me with, no.
But you were taking other stuff?
Other stuff, yeah.
But isn't that still cheating?
Still cheating, yeah. Like everybody else.
So that's how you justify it, is like everybody's cheating?
Yes.
When I interviewed Ben Johnson, he just basically said, look, everybody was on something. You know?
Well, you know, Ben, and bless his heart, he's got to say that everyone's on something. That's justifying his own means.
So he has a problem with you.
You have a problem. You have a problem of, you know, me beating him.
Yeah.
When we were taking that victory stand, we were on the stand, and he got the gold medal. He didn't smile. He never smiled. He never celebrated. And the thing is, he couldn't really inside share in the joy of winning. He cheated.
You cheat. Everybody cheats. Nobody's in this world is perfect. Nobody's in his life is perfect. Nobody. They know that in 1988 that, you know, 6 Americans at least test positive in Seoul, and they ushered up because the biggest money comes from America. So who's gonna get shafted? Americans or Ben Johnson?
I think that Ben Johnson was unfairly singled out. I think that there's always scapegoats.
Was there a lot of drug use going on in Olympics?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Dr. Exum was the director of anti-doping at the U.S. Olympic Committee for 10 years. He thought his job was to stop drugs in sports, but his bosses had other priorities. He told me that over 2,000 American athletes failed their drug tests, including Carl Lewis, and they were covered up.
Nobody believes Carl Lewis ever failed a drug test. Do you have any proof?
Oh, certainly. We have just boxes of proof for everything that I say.
There it is, book 3. Here's a letter from then Executive Director Baron Pittenger
to Mr. Lewis.
I must confirm that analysis for your specimen B was positive for pseudoephedrine, ephedrine, and phenylpropylamine. Is that what it is?
Phenylpropanolamine.
IOC banned stimulants. By policy of the USOC, this finding is cause for disqualification from the Olympic team for the 1988 Summer Olympic Games in Seoul, Korea. Wow.
This was basically a letter that said that you had failed the test and that there was a consequence to that failure. As you all know, that didn't come about.
You actually received a letter or a call
Yes.
that you had failed a drug test
Right.
because of some stimulants?
Yeah, it was like a cold medicine type thing, an herbal supplement.
They made up this term. It was called inadvertent use. An athlete took something without meaning to take it or without meaning to gain an advantage from taking it.
And so they made that up to basically kind of let people off the hook?
Oh, yeah.
Carl's story is you know, it's been a cold medicine, it's been a tea, it's been some kind of a nutrient. It's a stimulant.
So you're saying these athletes, they know
They
what's
definitely,
on the banned
they
substance
totally know. I mean, they are bombarded with the banned substance list.
A lot of people say you failed the drug test, you raced against Ben Johnson, and that maybe, you know, the gold medal should go to the guy next place.
I understand. There are a lot of people that are going to go to their graves saying, I know he did it. And you know what? The hell with him.
You really cannot fault the athlete for doing that. You can't fault Carl when Carl's belief is that the system sets some rules and that you need to follow them. And they made an exception in his case. They made an exception in a lot of people's cases. But it's the system that actually teaches athletes to think that way. You know, for me, the whole level playing field was a myth. If we could not do anything to take doping out of sports, then doping was meant to be in sports.
The first all-drug Olympics open today in Bogota, Colombia. Athletes are allowed to take any substance whatsoever before, after, and even during the competition.
Oh, he's pulled his arms off. He's pulled his arms off. That's got to be disappointing to the big Russian.
What has made every major sport multi-billion-dollar entities? Well, after you distill it all down, it's the desire of the customer, the fans that fill these seats and others, to see bigger-than-life people doing bigger-than-life things.
What do you think about athletes using steroids in sports?
Steroids? I love it if they're on my team.
I think it's totally wrong. Totally wrong.
First offense, throw them out. Hell, you ain't cheating. You kidding me? Ready, go. Oh!
It all gets back to money. As long as people continue to buy Mark McGuire shirts, Barry Bonds hats, we're feeding that monster. You vote for the Raiders by wearing the Raiders hat. You cast your vote for Nike with your t-shirt, you know? Every day when you pick $1 out of your pocket, you're voting. And if you don't like, you know, athletes juicing up, then don't vote to have that done. Don't buy their stuff. Don't go to the game.
Do steroids. Become governor. Be big and strong. No girly man. The Giants, baby! Woo! Shocker! Woo!
Since the steroid scandals broke, sports revenue has gone through the roof. People are buying more tickets, t-shirts, and souvenirs than ever. So if this is what we the people are voting for, why did Congress get involved? They always tell you that if you have a problem, talk to your congressman. Lucky for me, my congressman is Henry Waxman.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very nice to meet you. Chris Bell.
He's the one who called the baseball hearings in the first place. He's got to have some answers.
I think it's important for sports figures in Major League sports not to be allowed to use steroids under any circumstance. And for young people, we certainly don't want them to be using it. So the drug is a restricted drug. It's not there's not a, let me see. Brian, is it illegal to use it? It's illegal. It's legal in some circumstances.
It's legal with a medical prescription.
Okay. It's legal with a medical prescription, and the other drug was the
testosterone or just steroids in general.
I think that they're also banned. They're already banned in professional sports. Brian, am I right? Speak up if I'm wrong. Yes. Okay. Well, these products are already banned. Cigarettes and alcohol are legally available, but not if you're under the age. When an I think the age is 18 for both all around the country. Is it 18 or 21? I'm getting confused. What?
21.
Okay, so strike that.
That's all right. President Bush allotted $15 million for steroid education. Where has that money gone?
I don't know. Do you know? Okay, we don't know.
Okay.
So.
There's a war on drugs, and congressmen want to look tough on drugs, so they just demonize them all. And they say, oh, these are our children are being exposed to them, they're going to kill our children, and they just paint everything in black and white, and they really don't see the areas in between. For those of us who live in the gray areas and whose life depends on it, it's a very important issue.
Politicians are always looking for an issue to get behind. They're always looking for something to be able to say to the public, hey, look, look at what my legislation's doing. Look at what my bill has done. I'm out there. I'm protecting you. I'm protecting the children.
Turns out the most important witness at the baseball hearings was not a famous athlete. Taylor Hooton was a 17-year-old kid who committed suicide, and his father blamed steroids.
I believe the poor example being set by professional athletes is a major catalyst, fueling the high usage of steroids amongst our kids. And parents across America should hold you accountable for behavior that inspires our kids to do things that put their health at risk and that teaches them that the ethics we try to teach them around our kitchen table somehow don't apply to them. Please help us to see that our children's lives were not lost in vain. You have the power to do something about it, and we're counting on you to do so.
Donald Hooton coming in and putting a human face on it was more powerful than the statistics or any of that stuff.
On average, 5,000 kids a year commit suicide in America, and most parents never know exactly why. I wanted to find out why Donald Hooton is so sure that the answer could be as simple as steroids.
How you doing?
Fine.
Chris Bell.
Don Hooton, nice to meet you. This is a very, very competitive community, all the way from athletics to business. So you wind up in an affluent area where these kids can afford to play with this stuff. And of course, in hindsight, as we look back, all of the signs were staring us in the face. The behavior problems, the physical changes, but we had no idea what we were looking at. If we go back to the medical textbook, the depression that comes along with steroid use is bad, but it's worse in that 4 to 6 week period following stopping using this stuff. And it was during that period that his mother found him hanging on the door in his bedroom.
Taylor Hooton's dad, Don Hooton, called me shortly after Taylor had taken his life.
Together, we came up with the idea of creating a private organization
to educate the public about the dangers of anabolic steroid abuse.
This is Taylor's room. You don't have to come in here long to realize Taylor was a baseball player. I guess he started maybe 5 years old in T-ball, but Taylor was a great kid. We took Taylor to a psychiatrist, and she put him on a low dose of Lexapro. And as far as I know, this is the only steroid-related case that this well-meaning psychiatrist had ever had. And when the psychiatrist recommended that Taylor go cold turkey and stop using steroids, was a formula for disaster.
Well, I feel terrible, obviously, about Taylor Hooton, but Taylor Hooton had a lot of problems, and he was on other drugs. According to some newspaper accounts, he was on SSRIs, antidepressants, which have been shown to be associated with suicidal ideation and suicidal behavior. So whether his suicide was due to Lexapro or due to steroids or due to depression or due to stress of being a great athlete or 5 other things, I don't know.
Do you think that perhaps, when I look on the on your website for the Taylor Hooton Foundation, do you think it's a responsibility to include antidepressants in there just in case there are critics, or just to raise the awareness of how dangerous perhaps antidepressants may be?
No, I don't, and the reason is our battle's not with antidepressants. Our battle's with steroids.
The National Institute on Drug Abuse said the dangers of anabolic steroids are temporary and reversible.
My son is dead. All of the intellectual arguments about whether or not steroids are dangerous or not don't matter to me. I know they're dangerous. I saw it with my own eyes, and I watched my son die. The only evidence I need is the pictures of my son that are on the wall behind you.
Look, I have a son too, and the last thing in the world I could ever imagine doing is burying that kid. And it would probably ruin me for the rest of my life. And I could see where having a cause to sort of assuage the feelings of guilt and depression that are following my son's death would probably be, helpful. Let's not let this happen to somebody else. But they're chasing the wrong thing. They're not doing it right.
We're working with Major League Baseball to make that happen now, where, hopefully in each local stadium, there's going to be a steroids awareness night.
Do you find it ironic at all to have a steroid awareness night for baseball in a stadium that sells alcohol, which is responsible for a lot of deaths, is a drug?
Alcohol's legal to sell, and we can argue all day long whether tobacco kills and whether alcohol kills, and there's a clear distinction in my mind between tobacco or alcohol and steroids and methamphetamines and coke.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
All right,
I know how hard it can be and everything, and
This is important stuff.
Anybody who asks me about it, I let them know. I tell them why. I tell them, how much I take. I'll tell them anything they want to ask me about them.
What about the kids?
The kids are different because a couple kids asked me in front of the whole group, and I had to lie about it because this whole steroid thing is just out of hand.
I know Coach Bell doesn't take any steroids. He's just 100% strong. I think somebody asked if he was ever on steroids, and he said no, and I completely believe him. He just teaches that steroids are basically, there's a cheap way out of doing hard work.
I say they're not for kids. Steroids are not for kids. That's plain and simple. You should achieve some things naturally, and then maybe you should think about them when you're, an adult.
The main reason why I don't take steroids is because he got into my head that I don't need them, that I got the potential right now as a teenager to get as strong as I want.
What good would it do them to know that I take steroids? It wouldn't do them any good. They'd just be like, oh man, he's a cheater.
Would you ever tell our parents that you do it?
If they ask me.
I only cook 2 pounds. I hope it's enough.
We went to church all the time. I grew up in a great family. I don't think I could ask for anybody better to be parents, And when I went to USC, I didn't do any drugs. I didn't do anything. So like,
You're a good boy.
and then I got to a point where I actually tried steroids. I tried Winstrol, which is injections.
You injected a needle on yourself?
It's just in the muscle.
Yeah, because you get to a point where you're like, I'm kind of getting out of shape. I don't feel like I used to. The reason I stopped doing it was because I thought it was immoral. I thought it was so wrong, and like, what if my parents found out I did this?
I think it's really hard to hear that you tried them and everything, but
for you, it's not hard for me.
What I'm saying is that it's hard to hear it. And what about Mark? I mean, how come you're staying big but you're not getting fat? Like, you're just all...
I'm getting fatter.
No, well, your face is rounder than normally.
I put on body fat.
You're about 7 or 8% higher than you normally are, wouldn't you say, for how much heavier you are?
I have no idea. I don't really care either.
He's already married. He doesn't care.
Except Smelly's not saying anything. Don't let your brothers overrun your conversation.
When you get caught with something, I think the truth is always the fastest way out of the situation, but it's not always the best way out.
She's concerned, just being a mom, and she's just trying to, leave it open where I could say, yeah, you know what, I do them, and this is why, and I think that's what she's looking for. But she still never directly asked me, so until that time comes, I ain't saying nothing.
People have a tendency to cheat at everything, and that happens with taxes too, just like it could with steroids or any other thing. It's human nature, it's the sinful nature of man.
My dad convinced Mad Dog and his wife to settle down in Poughkeepsie, And he's been doing income taxes for the same guys he used to wrestle with.
I keep a couple things around, not too much. Big John always keeps it real. This just says, to Mad Dog, thanks for everything.
Not exactly how he thought his life would turn out.
I get up, I go to the office, I make money for them, I make money for me. I got a great wife, I got a great family. But I wanted to be a famous wrestler, and I wanted to live the life. I wanted to be on the road, traveling, meeting people, making money, having fun, living the life.
He'll break down and he'll be crying and he'll say like, Dad, the biggest fear I ever had in my life is being average Joe, and I'm 36 years old, and that's all I can see for myself.
What do you want to do now? Like, where do you see yourself going?
I mean, the immediate goal is to, get out of Poughkeepsie, move to California, establish my name, and then start my own business eventually.
Seemed like he was making good progress, okay? But he wasn't making any progress. I told him the other night, I said, you might be fooling everybody else, but you're not fooling me. You're full of shit. You're still on stuff.
Why do you think he wouldn't tell us about it? He tells me everything else, that he's done.
I think he's partially embarrassed, and I think he's, that's part of the addictive behavior. His thing is this: I'm going to be fine as soon as I'm out of here. I'm going to go live in California. My life is going to be perfect. But if he really believes that, no, he's not going to be fine at all. Here's why. You know who I feel bad for? I feel bad for Nadine. Because here's a young girl who's married, whose hopes and dreams and life is in him, and he's a screw-up. And if he ends up overdosing and killing himself, or if he ends up on the rocks, he's taking her with him. I'm
not moving out there with the hopes and dreams of, I'm not going to go wait tables and hope I'm going to be an actor. I already did that for 15 years for wrestling.
You're going to get noticed?
I'm not moving out there to get noticed, but you're never going to get noticed in Poughkeepsie. In Hollywood, you're walking down the street, somebody sees you, hey, you got a minute? You never know. You just never know.
You don't think there's any way he can get past it?
A miracle. I'm serious. Yeah, I think they're going to find him dead someday.
I thought bringing up boys, this is easy. At least I don't have a daughter who's like got her face in the bowl throwing up. Did I do something as a mother to make you feel like not good enough? When Mike went off to college and he calls your father up and says, "Can I try steroids?" No, you're not getting money to try steroids. We both thought that was like a crazy thing. So.
But do you know where he ended up getting them from?
No, but I wasn't going to.
He got them from your brother John.
No.
So it's something that's like, in our family. I mean, it's something that like, when.
Chris, you're already killing me with this as it is.
Well,
just gets worse.
I'm just telling you the truth.
I'm just trying to tell you how I feel as a mother. I am broken to my soul. My heart is broken. When you were growing up, Hulk Hogan, look what he's saying. Take your vitamins, say your prayers, and what?
Believe in yourself.
Yeah, but it's not true.
I started working out.
Take your steroids, okay? I don't know if he ever prays or not. Never heard him talk about God in his whole life, okay? Now that time has gone by, I'm like, is this guy a fraud? And that's where I think that everybody needs to begin to accept. I am who I am, said Popeye the Sailor Man. He even was a gyp.
Kid, take spinach.
Yeah, take spinach. Everybody needs something. I mean, what's up with that?
If I just accept who I am right now, isn't that just giving up?
No, accept who you are as a person. Then your body image is something different. You think a fat person hasn't tried everything that's legal? But I'm not going to cross the line. The Bible lays everything out about how to live your life.
But the Bible can't solve all your problems.
It can.
I can't pray to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's not going to happen.
No, you can't pray to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but neither can you take enough steroids or enough human growth hormone to look like him
but
either.
You can get as close as
you're not. It's not going to happen. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. Every sinew in your body, every muscle, every fiber was made by God, and you're exactly who He intended you to be. And so what to somebody with a six-pack of abs? Maybe they don't have what you have. I mean, why don't you ever think that way too? What I don't get is why did our boys not feel that they were good enough?
My father or my grandfather
never worried about whether they had a six-pack of abdominals or what percentage body fat they had. So why is it now, in the 21st century, that there's this huge preoccupation with body image that just didn't exist before?
Dr. Harrison Pope is a psychiatrist who studies why American men are becoming more obsessed with their bodies.
So here we have G.I. Joe from the 1960s. This is when he first came out at the time of the Vietnam War. He's a perfectly normal-looking dude. Here is G.I. Joe from about 10 years later, from the mid-1970s. He's got
abs now.
He's clearly been putting in some time in the gym. And then here is G.I. Joe from the 1990s. Bicep is up to 16 inches or so, full six-pack of abs, even got serratus muscles visible on the side. This evolution in the action figures is a testimony to this increased preoccupation with body image that we've been seeing in the United States. And it's funny that in our culture that we still tend to romanticize steroids to a certain way, that you'll see an ad for some SUV, that says, this is our sedan on steroids. But you wouldn't see an ad for an SUV saying, this is our sedan on cocaine.
Well, it's sort of like a golf cart on steroids.
It looked like an easy bake oven on steroids.
It's sort of economy on steroids.
Think of it as Apollo on steroids. This year, the jet stream has really been on steroids.
Kosovo would be Bosnia on steroids.
Adding more U.S. trainers and advisors, essentially putting the current strategy on steroids.
We are besieged every day with images of muscular male bodies on TV, in the movies, in cartoons, on magazines at the checkout counter in the department store, all of which seem to give this message that a real man is big and muscular.
There you go, just like that. Good, give me some good abs, Christian. That's it.
Saw Conan the Barbarian when I was 11. And at that moment, I said, that's exactly what I want to do. And I started to study Arnold and his achievements. So I started training with weights when I was 14. I started taking steroids when I was 16.
So you're advertising a supplement. So a guy like me goes and looks in the magazine and I see Christian Boving and I'm like, wow, man, I want to look like that guy. So I go and take Hydroxycut or some supplement because I think that I'm going to look like you. But what I don't know is that you were taking steroids. Do you have any problem with that?
That's a double-edged sword, my friend. How to answer this? If somebody looks at an ad with me in it and says, well, Christian Boving takes Hydroxycut, which I did, and I do, that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't take something else. And if they choose to believe that that's the only thing I'm taking to look like that, then so be it. They should be smarter than that. Is it misleading? Possibly a little bit, yeah. But is it a lie? Absolutely not.
I'd say probably 80 to 90%, I'm not kidding you, of all the stuff I see in magazines is complete hogwash. It's ridiculous to me. I don't understand why there's this need in advertising to really manipulate things. The bone-thin fashion models, they get all kinds of eating disorders, and with men it's the opposite. They get the Adonis complex, and then there's all kinds of trouble ahead because you have all these kids who are like you and me when we were young, looking at all these people, and they're perfect. And how does that make somebody feel who's not as perfect as the people they're seeing? Not very good.
So this stuff I've tried, loaded with sugar. Tried this. Tried this. Of course, I've tried this. Everybody, I think, has tried muscle milk. Tried this. Tried this. Tried all these drinks. If Speed Stack weren't enough, you have Extreme Speed Stack.
The supplement industry is very unregulated. You don't have to have FDA approval to come out with a dietary supplement. That gives people room to come out with some, lower quality products.
This product says new legal formula on it. I don't know what the old, what the old formula really had in it. Belizean man vine extract.
I don't want any part of that.
Best if used by date and lot number on bottom of can.
Yep.
I always thought the health industry was about, health. Why does it feel like we're back in the Wild West?
It'll clean your teeth and curl your hair. The best in the West. I wouldn't be dead without a bottle.
Well, we can all thank the senator from Utah, Orrin Hatch.
Look how good he looks. I want to get his brand, is what I want to do.
See, the health industry is big business in Utah. They make almost a quarter of all the dietary supplements in America. And supplements are a $24 billion industry. So you do the math. Making supplements used to be like making prescription drugs. You had to prove your product was safe and effective before you could sell it. Well, the supplement cowboys in Utah thought that was a real hassle. So they asked their favorite senator to change the rules around. And now you don't have to prove your product is safe at all. And the FDA has to prove that it's not safe if they want to take it off the market.
What is this red goop?
This is the Canadian version of Redline. We had to take out some of the ingredients that aren't legal in Canada.
Thanks to this deregulation, the supplement industry exploded, and all sorts of new and interesting people got in on the action.
Yeah, we were always a good team, whether we were selling drugs or whether we're selling a supplement like we are now. Jekyll and Hyde supplements, formulated to awaken your other side. Take this and all of a sudden you become the freak, the monster. Everybody wants to become a monster.
If Valentino can make a supplement, I bet anyone can do it.
Hola. How many guys you need?
I need 2 guys. We're making dietary supplements, and I just need a hand with a couple things. It'd be really easy.
All I need you guys to do is take the white.
What do you say?
Boom.
First, you buy a bunch of really popular ingredients. But the trick is, I'm just going to use a tiny amount of each one. Oof. It's what we like to call in the supplement biz, pixie dusting. See, I can hide my secret formula behind the term proprietary blend and not reveal that it's pretty much just a pill full of rice flour.
This is a good way to make a lot of money. Don't sneeze in the supplements here.
But with all those expensive ingredients on the label, I can make this bottle for about $1.40 and sell it for $60. Thanks, Oren.
We're in the supplement business now.
The scary part is that everything I just did is by the book. Well, except for the illegal immigrant day laborers. But hey, nobody's regulating them either. Now I just need a misleading advertisement.
They airbrush these guys a lot when you put them in magazines?
Definitely. There's all kinds of techniques and tools you can use to completely manipulate the body.
Really?
In fact, some of the before and after pictures, they could be done in the same day.
You haven't shot them in the same day, though, have you?
I have, actually.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
What do they do?
Is this the self-editing part? I should keep my mouth shut?
I could take anybody and take a picture of them, make them look their worst, think horrible thoughts, depression, and then through all kinds of ways make them look their best.
Just don't cut my nipple off.
All right, I see here. Good. 1, 2, 3. Good. We can take it a step further if we want in the befores and the afters. Basically, you can take somebody and make them a little fatter or shorter.
Are people falling for this?
They fall for it all the time, and it's beyond what I can understand because it looks so silly to me. But of course, I'm somebody who's had sort of an inside backstage pass of what's really occurred, and I've been part of some of these scams that have played out.
So, if unregulated dietary supplements are marketed like steroids and sold by people who are on steroids, is it any wonder that so many people are just taking the real thing? It's not like they're hard to get. You can cross the border and buy them from a pet store in Mexico.
Testosterone, 50 milligrams.
But it's for your dog or something, right?
Oh, it's for my dog. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. My dog's anemic.
Or you can buy them on the internet, like Mad Dog.
If you order it online, you can get the shit for $250 a kit instead of paying somebody on the black market $500 or $600 for a kit.
Or if you have enough money, you can get it legally. This is the annual convention for anti-aging medicine. Booth after booth of all the taboo performance-enhancing drugs. Stanozolol. Hey, that's what Ben Johnson used. Nandrolone. Isn't that what Sean Merriman got caught with? Oh, and human growth hormone. They say Marion Jones was taking that.
Human growth hormone usage has been rampant in baseball and other sports.
Athletes use HGH because it works a lot like anabolic steroids. And the best part is, there's no way to test for it. Here's how you get it. First, you go to your anti-aging doctor. Now, the doctor might not be a medical doctor, like in my case. He's a chiropractor, and chiropractors can't prescribe drugs, but that's okay. He just has another doctor write the prescriptions for him. But be careful. Prescribing hormones for anti-aging is a felony. So you can't exactly tell your anti-aging doctor that you're interested in anti-aging. Not to worry, though. Just use the words hormone deficiency instead. First thing, doc will want to do a little physical.
You have people come to you to try to get steroids?
Absolutely. But prescribing steroids, that's not what we do at all.
But it kind of is what you do in a way, in a different way.
Next, you're going to get a urine test to check your hormone levels for 24 hours. That's a take-home test. You know, Scout's honor. Send in the test, and a week later, go get your results.
Get your labs back here. Urinary growth hormone output.
But here's the thing. Since the FDA's never defined what a hormone deficiency really is, Well, Doc can pretty much interpret the results however he wants.
So you're a little bit low coming down. I'm going to bring those levels up to optimal.
Now, it may seem strange that the most controversial drugs in America are being prescribed using take-home tests, and in my case, by a doctor I never met. But hey, at least I'm not the one breaking the law.
Why don't you just get it legally? I like getting it the way I get it, and it's cheap, and I can get it, anytime I want. And I don't think there's any real reason for me to. I mean, I don't want to go to a doctor. That's a pain in the ass. You ever worry about getting arrested or the cops coming after you or anything like that? I'm not all that concerned about it. You can justify anything to yourself, and once you justify it to yourself, then you just think it's cool. You think it's okay. So, in my mind, it's okay.
I pose the question to people and say, hey, if you had to take a drug with the side effects, known side effects, and the unknown effects of anabolic steroids to keep your job right now and support your family, would you do it?
Maintaining an erection is very easy to do with the appropriate chemical assistance.
Liquid Viagra, straight injected into the penis.
You inject this in your penis?
Yep.
Does it hurt?
Not really.
It's not just athletes and porn stars taking performance-enhancing drugs. Just about everybody's in on the action.
Probably the most common thing is what we call go pills. There's probably different kinds, but dextroamphetamine's the big one. They work wonders, they really do, especially you've been out there a long time and it's hard to stay focused.
What about you?
Yeah, they'll spin you right up.
Many parents may not be aware that their children are taking a drug by the name of Adderall to improve their academic performance.
Adderall is a powerful stimulant, very much like cocaine or methamphetamine.
It's not just for people who have a problem. It's people who think completely fine. I'd taken Adderall in college here and there to write a paper, and I said, this is fun. This is a fun way to write a paper.
Your test scores go up, and you're doing homework faster, so you can do more work.
All I did when I went to class, my friends tried to talk to me, nope, hold on. And I'd be doing all my work.
And for every performance, there's a way to enhance it.
So you take beta blockers to calm you down?
It actually doesn't calm me down. It prevents me from getting nervous.
Here we go.
But I was in college and I was having really, really bad problems with performance anxiety, and it was actually making me question what I was doing in the first place. My friend gave me beta blockers, and I just couldn't believe it. I felt like I could get up there and do exactly what I wanted to do, and I wasn't hindered by what my body was reacting to.
Blocking that adrenaline goes a long way towards enhancing performance.
So it's okay to enhance your performance if you're a pilot, a porn star, a musician, or a student. But if your job is to play professional baseball, well, somehow that makes you a cheater.
Do you feel it's cheating?
Not at all. Oh, no, certainly not.
There is no competition in music. This is completely unlike sports.
What about in an audition situation? Is there competition there?
Yeah, there is. And, a lot of people take them, and I don't see that there's a problem with it.
Was there any sort of moral bridge across when you did it?
Well, we're in the porn business, so there's not a whole lot of morals to begin with.
Amphetamines in baseball, they actually take the same pill as a go pill.
Yeah, I've heard that.
In the clubhouse, they're called greenies, and some in the game say they could be more common than steroids.
In sports, you should play fair. In war, you shouldn't play fair at all.
I've got some men on a road, and it looks like a piece of artillery firing at us. I am rolling in self-defense. Shack.
In 2002, over Afghanistan, 2 American pilots on go pills bombed a group of friendly Canadians.
I hope that was the right thing to do. Me too.
4 Canadian soldiers were killed. Doctors say the pilot's snap judgment to open fire is typical of someone on speed.
The pilots were charged with manslaughter, but they blamed their go pills, and the charges were dropped. No other country in the world allows amphetamines in their Air Force, but in America, we require it.
America's a very competitive place, and people will take advantage of really anything they can in order to help themselves in that struggle.
I hate to say, the amount of beta blockers that they've got me on right now, California traffic doesn't bother me anymore.
Really?
It's too easy to get it from a doctor. Like you say, I can't focus in class, and the doctor prescribes it automatically.
And when you got Adderall, you just went to the doctor?
No. It's just passed around at school.
It's passed around at school.
Passed around at school.
You turn on your TV, and we push drugs, right? You know, if you have a headache, use this. If you have a pain in your side, use that. If you want to go to sleep, use this. If you want to wake up, use that.
We are the only country in the world that permits drugs of that kind to be advertised directly to the consumer.
The American pharmaceutical industry spends almost $5 billion a year on advertising, and we in turn spend $250 billion on their drugs. That's more than any other country by far. Are we the most unhealthy people in the world? Or do we just watch too much TV?
Everybody's on a drug. So why, because I'm on a drug, does everybody have to point the finger at me? Why am I the bad guy?
Because you're on steroids.
And steroids are bad.
To help children make right choices, they need good examples. Athletics play such an important role in our society. But unfortunately, some in professional sports are not setting much of an example.
Long before George Bush was the president, he was the owner of the Texas Rangers, a Major League Baseball team, with none other than Jose Canseco on the roster.
Do you think that the team trainers, the managers, the general managers, and even the owners might have been aware that some players were using steroids?
No doubt in my mind. Absolutely.
So did the president know that his players were on the juice?
You've admitted to using steroids in the past. Knowing what you know now about them, would you have done it?
Yeah, absolutely.
The National Football League has talked more about steroid testing or human growth hormone, and I know back in your day you've admitted that you did that. Your stand on that right now?
Well, I think it's good to do doping tests, and the trick always is to find a way of really doing true testing.
Right.
I think that we have to do something about the drug use in sports, and I think it does send the wrong message to our children.
So Arnold wants to crack down on steroids. But every year he sponsors his own bodybuilding show, the Arnold Classic. And they don't drug test at all.
It's unbelievable the shape this guy's in. I mean, how ripped they are, how big they are, how cut they are, their posing routine and everything. I'm so proud of them. I tell you, it's really amazing.
This year, Governor Schwarzenegger handed over the winning trophy to Victor Martinez, a guy who was busted for selling steroids just a couple years ago. And a few days before this competition, he was implicated in another steroid scandal.
The bodybuilder who won a competition sponsored by Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger this past weekend has been linked to a steroid investigation. A spokesman for the governor says Schwarzenegger did not know of Martinez's links to steroids.
Come on, Arnold. What do you mean you didn't know? Okay, let's compare. Here's Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was on steroids. 6'2", 235 pounds. And here's Victor Martinez, 7 inches shorter and 15 pounds heavier.
Give him a big hand. Come on, big hand.
You know, I've been calling Arnold's office for over a year to get an interview, but his people keep telling me that his position on steroids is very clear. So the only way to get an answer was to track him down myself at a place I knew he would show up, Muscle Beach. It was just a few weeks before the governor's re-election, and Arnold went to where he knew he could depend on support to cement his voting base. This was my big chance. I waited for hours. And finally, there he was. And there was this other guy, the tall guy, the one in the middle. He saw me. This is how politics work these days. The important thing when making an appearance is the photo op. The tall guy's gonna nod at me, then he's gonna point Arnold in my direction. Arnold, his instincts honed by years of being a huge star, instantly sizes up the situation, notices the various cameras, and decides to use me to further his re-election bid. And instead of talking about steroids and the cheating culture of America, he compliments me on my biceps. And we end up on the cover of the LA Times.
Oh, there it is! Oh my God!
Not that I mind. After all, it was kind of like a dream come true.
Son of a bitch.
But I still have all these unanswered questions.
Let me tell you this, first of all. You can't knock Arnold, really, okay? Because the steroids didn't get him into that office that he's in.
But he basically comes out and he says, if you work hard and you play by the rules, this country's truly open you, you can achieve anything. But did he get to where he is playing by the rules, or would he have ever even been famous had he not taken those drugs?
Well, let's look at it this way. Let's talk about other heroes. Let's talk about John Kennedy. He was a hero in the Navy. John Kennedy served as president of the United States, but John Kennedy cheated on his wife right in the White House when, with Marilyn Monroe and who knows how many others, okay? It's no different than biblical characters. Moses was a hero, but Moses was a heel. He didn't get into the promised land. He didn't do what God told him to do. David was a hero. King David was a hero, but David was a heel. He chased every woman in a skirt or in a toga or whatever they wore back then. Okay, every man is fallible, and even the people who were the prime examples of how to run your life in the Bible screwed up. They all screwed up. So people need to get off their self-righteous soapboxes and start loving each other.
We just need to go out there and do our jobs, just as you professionals do your job. No, all you guys lied. All of y'all, in a story or whatever, have lied. Should you have asterisks behind your name? All of you have lied. All of you have said something wrong. All of you have dirt. All of you. When your closet's clean, then come clean somebody else's. But clean yours first.
Hi, how are you? Last name is Bell, B-E-L-L.
I took the oath to serve you. I say to everyone here today and to all Californians, I will not forget my oath and I will not forget you.
A few months after I voted for Arnold, his people told Gold's Gym to remove all of his images.
What is the meaning of this? It's a dark day in Gold's Gym. They're taking down Arnold's poster.
You have a lot of respect for Arnold? Is he one of your heroes?
Well, he was until he took his shit down. You know, that guy's a traitor, man.
The gym feels different now. The old Arnold's gone. And somehow, this time, I don't think he'll be back.
So you excited to be out here instead of in Poughkeepsie?
Hell yeah, man. I got a job making 3 times as much money. My rent's just about the same, and I'm right by the beach, and I got a convertible right here next to the mirror, honey. Put a little muscle in it.
Here you go.
Higher.
So what do you plan on doing here that you weren't doing in Poughkeepsie?
Geez, like having fun at life instead of hating life.
Think it'll help you, like with your problems and stuff?
Absolutely. I feel better already.
Now that Mad Dog's in California, things seem to be going pretty good for him. He got a job working as a trainer at a local wrestling school.
Now if I want to take it, here, keep your face up, sell.
He'd actually make a great teacher. But that's not good enough for Mad Dog. He still wants to be a superstar.
So this Sunday night, pay-per-view, Madison Square Garden, Hell's Bells will toll for you.
Got it?
Just not on that last week. I'm sick though, dude.
Mad Dog sent his promo to the WWE, but they rejected him again. They said he's too old and not what they're looking for right now.
You know, I want to believe that the world is good, but it's not, and I want to try hard. But why try when you can't win? Those who can't do train, it's just I never understood why I didn't.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, what's the problem with just being like a normal guy? Like, what's wrong with just being normal?
There's nothing wrong with it. Well, actually, there is something wrong with it. The thing that's wrong with it is that I was born to attain greatness, and I'm the only one that's holding myself back, and I need to attain greatness. I need to do it.
You live down by the beach. You have a beautiful wife.
And nothing's ever good enough.
I can only imagine how she feels. And do you ever, think like, why am I dragging somebody else in this?
I know that a lot of times she's crying herself to sleep, and I know that sometimes she doesn't go the way that she did when I first met her. And I know it's my fault, and it really tears me up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I worry every day that what I worry about is you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your wife, and then you're going to lose yourself, you know?
If I lose my job and my wife, what else do I have? I just feel that I have more to offer this world, and I don't know exactly what it is or how I'm going to go about doing it. I know that there's something in here that's meant for the rest of the world to know.
were kids. You all admired the champion marble shooter, the fastest runner, big league ball players, the toughest boxers. Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser.
Smelly is now competing against the best guys in the world, and he hopes to achieve his childhood dream of bench pressing 700 pounds. But he and his wife agreed that this would be his last meet on steroids.
I knew that she didn't really care for it, but I didn't know it hurt her that much, and I didn't know she worried that much about it. It's definitely something that's not going to be easy to do. I don't necessarily want to do it, but you know, if I just stay on it and ignore her, then it's just being selfish.
He's trying to have another kid, so he decided that this is going to be his last meet that he ever takes anything. How do you think that'll affect his lifting?
It'll affect it somewhat, but once he tapers off and has the child, he can go right back on.
But he doesn't want to go back on him. His wife doesn't want him to be on it at all, ever again.
The death of Smelly.
You think so?
Smelly will go back on.
So you'll never take it again?
I'll never take him again?
Yeah.
No, I probably will take him again because...
How?
This is something... well, I'll figure out a way. I mean, you know, that's something I'll have to talk out with Andy, but this is something I've been involved in powerlifting since I was like 12 years old. This is part of what I would like to do, and I'm not going to go from squatting 800 pounds to squatting 700 pounds. I'm going to want to get back on them for sure.
Which is kind of sad because if you...
Well, you know, a lot of people have to lie to get ahead. That's just kind of the way things work.
I mean, we weren't brought up as cheaters.
Well, I mean, people aren't brought up to like rob a bank either. Not really like trained to rob a bank, or not really trained to do drugs or taught to do drugs or anything like that. But just, you know, kind of the way you end up.
Yeah, come on. You got it. Let's go. Come on.
My baby brother is on steroids, and we all know it. But look at us. My dad looks like he won the lottery, and my mom's prayers have been answered. I was raised to believe that cheaters never prosper. But in America, it seems like cheaters always prosper.
The use of performance-enhancing drugs like steroids is dangerous, and it sends the wrong message. That there are shortcuts to accomplishment, and that performance is more important than character.
There is a clash in America between doing the right thing and being the best.
Americans play to win all the time because the very thought of losing is hateful to Americans.
In a culture where second place is the first loser, the real heroes are the ones who win at all costs.
Everything I have, my career, my success, my family, I owe to America.
This is America. We are the greatest country in the world. You could call us a nation on steroids. But what are those long-term side effects? For me and my brothers, steroids are not the problem. They are just another side effect of being American.